Okay. Welcome to the next session on the ARM architecture introduction. Now, in this session, we will see little bit about the assembly instruction related some of the features which are available in ARM processor as such. The feature is known as a conditional execution. Of course, this conditional execution is related with the assembly instructions which are available in an ARM processor as such, or ARM processor supports. Now, this controls whether or not the core will execute an instruction. Means under certain condition, if that condition is gets satisfied, then and then only the instruction will be executed, like that. Okay. So with the help of one example, we will see in the next slide. But before that, just see that this controls whether or not the core will execute an instruction. Prior to execution, the processor compares the condition attribute with the condition flags in CPSR. In the previous sessions, we have seen that the flag bits are available in the CPSR register. Okay, and in case of these mathematical or the arithmetic operations, you know that as per the result, the flags will be activated or set to 1. Okay, so as per the condition of the flags in the CPSR, the execution is to be carried out. Execution of a next instruction is to be carried out. Okay, if they match, then the instruction is executed, otherwise ignored. Okay. Now we'll see with the help of an example that would be more better. The condition attribute is postfixed to the instruction mnemonic, which is encoded in the instruction. Okay, we'll see one example. When the condition mnemonic come to know is not present, if the condition mnemonic is not present in the instruction, the default behavior is to set it to always AL, execute. Okay, always execute. Now we'll see that. One example is here. One assembly instruction has been shown here, which is CMP. CMP stands for the compare. Compare the register R1 contents with the number 5. Compare the register R1 contents with the number 5. Now next assembly instruction is move equate. Move equate R1, 0. Now how these two instruction works? In this case, first of all, the contents of the R1 will be compared with the number 5. If the R1 contents are equal to 5, if both are matching, then and then only this instruction gets executed. Means the condition is that the earlier condition is the contents of the R1 should match with the number 5. If this becomes true, then and then only the 0 will be copied into the R1. The 0 will be copied into the R1. So this is a pair of instructions, and the condition which is there, okay, the condition is to be embedded, or it is postfixed into the basic instruction. This is what the basic instruction is. Okay, MOV is the basic instruction. EQ stands for the equality. This is to be added with the basic instruction. Okay, so this becomes a conditional execution. Means if in the earlier instruction, if the two values R1 contents and the 5, if they are matching, then and then only this instruction will be executed. Okay, so if the contents of the R1 are matching with the number 5, then only the 0 will be copied into the R1. So this is called as a conditional execution. If suppose there are no any conditions post fixed. There is no any condition post fixed in a basic instruction. Then it is by default assume that there is a condition known as an AL. There is a condition known as an AL. AL is present over here. AL is present over here. AL stands for the always. AL stands for the always. So there is no any necessity to write the AL every time. There is no any necessary to write the AL every time. You can write simply a basic instruction move R10. So that indicates that AL is always present there. AL is always present there. Now this concept, of course, with the help of this conditional execution, this helps to reduce the multiple branch instructions or the multiple jumps, okay, in the entire program as such. Of course, this could be more elaborated with the help of a assembly program or more assembly instructions as such. So short programs we need to study. So this will be more elaborated in the next session or in the chapter which is there. A separate chapter is there on assembly instructions. So in that assembly instructions chapter we will study more details and how this conditional execution is helping to reduce the multiple branches as such. Okay. Now which are the different condition mnemonics available in the ARM instruction set as such. So EQ, these are the all short forms available. These are the all short forms available. Okay. And the meaning of these short forms or the full form, it is written in front of that. So EQ stands for the equal, equality. NE stands for the not equal. CS stands for the unsigned, higher or same. Unsigned, higher or same. CC stands for the unsigned, lower. MI stands for the negative. Okay. PL stands for the positive or zero. VS stands for the overflow. VC stands for the no overflow. HI stands for the unsigned higher. HI stands for the unsigned higher. LS stands for the unsigned lower or same. GE stands for the signed greater than or equal. LT stands for the signed less than. GT stands for the signed greater than. LE stands for the signed less than or equal, and AL stands for the always. NV stands for the special purpose. So these are the different condition mnemonics which are available in the ARM instruction set as such, and these mnemonics are the postfix or the extension of the basic instruction. Okay, so it is available in front of that. Of course, this entire concept is to be elaborated more with the help of the assembly programs or the more assembly instructions as such, or using small programs. So we will see this concept in detail in the assembly instruction chapter. Okay, now we'll go ahead. The ARM architecture supports pipelining concept. This is very important. So ARM architecture supports pipelining concept. So in the pipelining concept, of course, there are the three-stage pipelining is there. In case of ARM architecture, particularly ARM 7 architecture supports three-stage pipelining. So in this case, the steps are like this. First is the fetching of an instruction from the memory location. So first step is the fetching or reading of the instruction from a memory location. Then it goes to the decoding of the instruction. In the next stage, the decoding of the instruction is to be carried out, and in the third stage, the instruction has been executed. Now, what is meant by pipelining? This is actually the flow of a single instruction, how this is to be carried out, how the operations on the instruction has to be carried out. Means the fetching of an instruction, then the decoding of the instruction, and the executing of the instruction. These are the three stages of applicable for any instruction as such. Now, what is meant by pipelining concept is, pipelining concept is nothing but what? If the first instruction has been fetched, suppose, then in the next machine cycle, it goes for the decoding purpose. In the next machine cycle, the first instruction goes for the decoding purpose. So whenever the decoding of the first instruction is going on, at the same time, the second instruction has been fetched. At the same time, the second instruction has been fetched. Now, when the first instruction goes into the third stage, in the third machine cycle it goes to the third stage, executing stage. Then at that time the second instruction goes to the decoding stage, and then the third instruction has been fetched. So one by one these activities are carried out like this as shown in picture. So this pipelining supports the saving of the machine cycles. So in a one particular machine cycle time, these two operations are carried out. In a one particular machine cycle time, these three operations have been carried out. So this supports the saving the time. So time period has been efficiently used, so that automatically the throughput of the entire processor as such it has been improved, the efficiency has been improved. So this supports the time saving concept, and as the time gets saved, the entire activities have been becoming very fast. The instruction execution has been becoming very fast. In a small time period, maximum instructions have been gets executed. So the overall system operation becomes very fast, and that supports the embedded applications as such. So this is the one of the philosophy of designing the ARM processor as such. This is one of the philosophy while designing the ARM processor has been considered. So entire operation becomes very fast, the system becomes very fast, and then the automatically the processing on the instruction has been taking place in a short time period. So overall system performance improves. Okay, so this is what the pipelining concept is there. Okay, so ARM7 architecture, which we are studying right now in our subject, ARM7 architecture supports three-stage pipelining. ARM7 architecture supports three-stage pipelining. Of course, there are the further versions available. ARM9 is there, ARM11 is there. ARM9 supports 5-stage pipelining. ARM11 supports 7-stage pipelining. Okay, so two stages have been extra added in the next coming architectures. Okay, so we'll go to the next. If you look into the memory organization as such, if you look into the memory organization which is available in a ARM7 architecture, okay, there are the in a memory organization or in a memory, the information, either it may be a instruction or either it may be a data, how this has been stored in a memory, that has been shown in this particular figure. Okay, so there are two concepts available in the memory organization. One is known as a little endian. This is called as a little endian. Okay, and then the second is the big endian. This is known as a big endian. Now I told you earlier that the 32-bit information, either it may be an instruction or either it may be a data, has been divided into the 4 bytes. The entire 32-bit information, which is known as a word, has been divided into the 4 bytes. So byte A plus 1, byte A plus 2, and byte A plus 3 as such. Okay, so these are the 4 bytes which are available. Okay, 4 bytes are available in a word. Then, or if you look at the half word information, means 16 bits wide information, I told you that 16-bit wide information is known as a half word. So first 2 bytes become a one half word, next 2 bytes become another half word. So A half word, A plus 2 half word, like this. And this is the word information, which is a 32 bits wide. Now see that what is meant by little endian. Of course, ARM7 architecture supports little endian. ARM7 architecture supports little endian. Okay. Now in this case, how this is to be done, or information, how the information has been stored in a memory. Now see here, this is the LSB side, first bit, LSB side, address is 0. This is the MSB side, address is 31. Okay, this is the 32nd bit. This is the 32nd bit, address is 31, total 32 bit information. Okay, now if at the LSB side where the address is 0, if at the LSB side where the address is 0, if your first byte is locating, at the address 0, then it is called as a little endian. So the first byte is available at the, or it is beginning at the address 0 LSB side. Then the A+1 byte is next to that, A+2 next to that, and A+3 next to that, like this. Okay. So from the LSB side to the MSB side, the bytes gets stored one by one like this. First byte, second byte, third byte, and the fourth byte, like this. This is called as a little endian kind of a addressing mechanism. This is called as a little endian addressing mechanism. And in ARM7 architecture supports little endian addressing mechanism. In case of big endian addressing mechanism, see the picture here. At the first address location, at the first LSB side, first bit address location, the last byte is available. The fourth byte is available at the LSB side, and it is beginning from the first address bit location. So A+3 is available at the LSB side at 0 address. So exactly opposite to the earlier. Cross section. A+3 is available here at the beginning. This is called as a big endian kind of addressing mechanism. But remember that the ARM7 architecture supports little endian addressing mechanism. Okay, just remember this much. We'll go ahead now. If you look into the entire ARM7 memory map, this is of course this is the ARM7 architecture. This is the entire memory area, on-chip memory area, which is available, and these are the various sections in which the entire preloaded softwares are available, or some certain addresses, certain locations are used for the peripherals, you can see. Okay, different peripherals are there. Of course, this entire memory has been embedded into the microcontroller. At that time, this of course entire details comes into the picture. Okay, so being in a 32-bit wide, this is all means address size is the 32 bits wide. Address size is 32 bits wide. So every memory location address is having a 32 bits wide information. So automatically 2 raised to 32 stands for 4 GB. 2 raised to 32 is equal to 4 GB. So entire 4 GB memory is available for the ARM processor. Entire 4 GB memory is available for, or available in a ARM architecture, you can say. So of course this area has been divided into the sections. Small sections are available. This is 128 KB on-chip non-volatile memory is there from the 0th location to the FFFF, like this. Then on-chip static RAM is there, which starts from the 4000. Okay, and this goes on changing the addresses. Last addresses, or the last limit has been shown here, 3FFF, 7FFF, FFFF, like this. Of course, these are again applicable to the particular architecture, LPC 210405006. These are the numbers of the ARM based microcontrollers. These are the numbers from the ARM based microcontrollers from the NXP semiconductors, or the earlier it was known as a Philips. Okay, like this. Now basically whenever you are working in lab sessions, along with microcontroller, ARM based microcontroller, whenever you start working on that, the entire program which you are writing, either it is in the form of assembly or embedded C, that goes here, that goes and sits over here in the static RAM area. It is to be loaded at the address 4000. So in the lab sessions, whenever you are working on any microcontroller, in our lab sessions, we are using LPC2148 microcontroller. In our lab session, we are using LPC2148 microcontroller, in which the static RAM which is available at this particular address. So our entire program as well as the data goes here in this area, in this particular area, on chip static RAM area. Okay. So this again, next instruction is next locations are reserved for on chip memory. And then the boot block is there. Okay, boot memory is there. Okay, so bootloader program is available in this area, reserved for the external memory. Okay, reserved for the external memory. Then this area entirely available, 3.5 GB to 3.75 GB. The addresses are shown here. This is available for the VLSI peripheral bus, VLSI peripheral bus. So those are the peripherals which are associated with this or connected with this particular bus. Of course, this is available. This information we will get it in the LPC2148 datasheet. Then AHB peripherals are there. Advanced High Performance Bus. AHB stands for the Advanced High Performance Bus Peripherals. Okay, so these are the associated with the peripherals. Their addresses are available over here. So this is some sort of a memory mapped IO kind of a thing. Memory mapped mapping is there. Okay. So you might have studied in a 8085 or 8051 IO mapping and the memory mapping. So this corresponds to this ARM architecture supports to the memory mapping as such. Okay. So memory addresses are nothing but the addresses of the peripherals directly. So like that, this is there. Okay. So this is overall the entire memory map is there. Okay. Just remember that the important thing is that our program goes in this particular area. Whenever we are writing any assembly or embedded C program, this goes here, this goes or this residing in this area. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. This is the diagram which is nothing but entire embedded system design flow as such. This diagram shows you the development flow, or you can say the embedded system designing flow, embedded system design flow. So how it is to be carried out stepwise, it has been shown. So the first stage is always whenever you are writing a program, either the program can be written in an assembly language or the program can be written in a embedded C language like this. Okay. Then the next step is, of course, there is editors are available. Editors are available for writing embedded C code or the assembly code. Keil is the company which is supporting this. Keil compilers are available in the market. Keil compilers are recognized by the industry. So those compilers are very famous. In 8051, you have studied that how to write a embedded C program and how to write even assembly program also. You are executed with the help of a Keil assembler as well as the Keil compiler, and you have done that already. You are familiar with the Keil Keil tool, of course, Keil assembler and the compiler tool. The same Keil compiler we are also using in the ARM microcontroller programming, ARM based microcontroller programming, that is LPC2148 programming. Same Keil compiler will be there, same steps will be there to create a project, to create a file, assembling, and then or you can say compiling the code, and then looking the result into the various ports, as well as the internal simulator is available, even logic analyzer is available into that. So we will see these details in the lab sessions as such. So the first step is writing a program, either assembly or a C. Then that goes to the assembler or a compiler as per the source, you can say. If it is assembly programming, the assembler will come into the picture. If it is an embedded C program, then the compiler will come into the picture. Then of course the object file or the exe file or the hex file will be generated further in these steps. Okay, of course here at the middle stage, of course, if RTOS support is required, real-time operating system support is required, then that support is gets added over here. And if it is not required for the smaller systems or the small complex systems, there is no any necessity to add the RTOS. Simply writing the code is sufficient. Okay, so after the assembling or compiling, you are getting an object file, you are getting a hex file, binary file, you can say, which is to be downloaded, into the microcontroller as such, which is to be downloaded in a target board, target device, you can say, which is nothing but what in our case it's a LPC2148. Okay, so after compilation you are getting a hex file that has been downloaded in a LPC2148 microcontroller, which gives you the results further. So this is in short, this is the design flow. This is the design flow in short. Okay, so we'll go to the next step. Okay, now here we are of course ending the entire session as such, but ARM architecture, introduction to the ARM architecture session. In this entire ARM architecture sessions, so 5 small videos I have created and that has been available to you now. Now in this session, of course, last slide is related with the LPC2148. LPC2148, which is the ARM7 based microcontroller, Now here, of course, if you look into the diagram, here is the ARM processor available, ARM7 TDMI-S. Okay, ARM7 processor is available here. ARM7 core CPU has been embedded into the microcontroller. Now this is the entire microcontroller and this is the ARM7 processor. This is the ARM7 processor which has been embedded into the microcontroller, and ARM7 processor is connected. ARM7 processor is connected with the various peripherals. These are the peripherals available, external peripherals. Here the memory section is there. Okay, here the memory section is there, and of course we'll see the details. So this is what the ARM7 processor is connected with the peripherals. That becomes a microcontroller. Now in the lab session, we are using LPC2148 microcontroller for the programming purpose. Okay, so in short, we will see the features of this LPC21 microcontroller. This is the entire architecture of the LPC2148 microcontroller. This microcontroller is manufactured by this LPC series is manufactured by the NXP Semiconductors. Earlier it was known as Philips. Okay, so here of course there is a ARM7 TDMI CPU core is there. Okay, there are the two PLLs are available, PLL0 and PLL1. PLL0 is generating a clock for the entire system as such, and PLL1 is generating a separate special clock for the USB communication. PLL1 is generating a special clock at a certain fixed frequency. It is generating a clock frequency specially for the USB communication, and PLL0 is generating a clock for the entire system operation as such. Okay, so again here crystals are there, reset is there. Then the interrupt controller, of course it is a vectored interrupt controller block is here. Then this is the advanced high performance AHB decoder is there. Then there is a RAM available. Okay, RAM is available over here. Okay, then this section is, of course, this is the fast general purpose input IO. So this is related with the IO ports which are available in the LPC2148. This block is there. Then there is an internal SRAM controller is there. Then there is a flash controller is there. So flash RAM is there. Okay, and there is a SRAM is there. Static RAM is available, which is okay as shown in the earlier slide. okay, so where actually the program is residing. Okay, then of course there are the buses available. Okay, this is called as an AMBA bus, advanced high performance bus is there. Okay, advanced high performance bus. Now here there is a AHB2 APB bridge. Okay, now advanced performance bus. Okay, actually this is related with the what this processor is working usually at a high frequency. Normally there are two sections roughly in this architecture. One is the upper section, means the processor section, and the second section is the peripheral section particularly. So this is the upper section, means memories and PLL and all these section is the one section along with the CPU. The second bottom section is related with the peripherals. Now normally entire the upper section is working at a high frequency. Upper section is working at a high frequency because the processor is working at a higher frequency compared with the all these peripherals. Normally the peripherals are working at a lower frequency. All these peripherals are working at a lower frequency compared to the CPU. So for the synchronization purpose, high frequency to low frequency applications, for the synchronization purpose, there is a bridge available. So automatically the high frequency has been converted into the low frequency, and which is gets matching with the operations of the various operations of the peripherals. Okay, so this is the AHB to APB bus is there. APB stands for the peripheral bus, advanced peripheral bus. Okay, AHB stands for the advanced high performance bus. Okay, so there are the various peripherals are available in the LPC2148. External interrupts are there, EINT. Okay, then the capture compare timers is there. Two timers are there, timer 0, timer 1, as well as capturing and the comparing is also taking place. AD converters are there, DA converter is there, then the general purpose IOs are there, PWM pulse width modulated output you can get. Okay, and then this is of course a system control block is there. Then USB application is there, USB bus is available directly. And then the I2C peripheral bus is there, I2C serial communication bus is available on the board itself, on the chip itself. Two are there, I2C 0 and 1. Then the SPI is there, SSP facility is there, serial interfacing facility is there, SPI and SSP. Then UART 0 and UART 1 is also there, serial communication. RS232 two sections are there, UART 0 and UART 1. Then the real-time clock is there, RTC is there, real-time clock, and then the watchdog timer is available on chip. Watchdog timer is there. So all these peripherals are available on chip in a LPC2148 microcontroller. So this is in short how it looks like. So in the next slide some details are available. So these are the features. LPC2148 is an 64-pin IC with a 16 32-bit 70DMI microprocessor core is there on chip. 40 KB on chip static RAM is there. 512 KB on chip flash program memory is there. So 40 KB static RAM is for the data storage purpose, and the 512 KB for the program storage purpose. There are the 14 10-bit ADC channels are there. So 14 channels are there. Every channel is having a 10-bit digital output. Every channel is giving you the 10-bit digital output. So 10-bit ADC channels with conversion time about 2.44 microsecond per channel. So conversion time stands for what? Once the sample has been taken, whenever the ADC is capturing or sampling a sample, whenever it captures the sample, it is to be converted into the corresponding digital output. So from the sample taking to the conversion completion, to the 10-bit digital conversion completion, that time period is known as a conversion time. From the taking of a sample to the completion of a conversion, analog sample has been converted into the 10-bit digital equivalent. So that time period is nothing but the conversion time, and which is equal to the 2.44 microsecond per channel. Then there is a single 10-bit DAC is there. Single 10-bit DAC is there. Two 32-bit timers are available. Two 32-bit timers are available, or counters. You can configure them as in a counters also. With capture and compare facilities there, you can capture the sample signal. You can compare the signal. Such 4 channels are available each. Okay. Then it is having a PWM facility. Directly PWM signal can be available. 6 outputs are there. 6 channels are there. And watchdog timer is also available, and the watchdog timer is there. Next is the multiple serial interfaces, including 2 UARTs are there. Serial interfacing facilities available. 2 UARTs are there. Then the 2 I2C channels are there. SPI is there. SSP is there. Okay, these are the buses available. Then the vectored interrupt controller block is there for the interrupt purpose. So external interrupts, for this purpose you have a vectored interrupt controller block with configurable priorities. You can assign the priorities now. You can assign the priorities in this case to the interrupts, and the vector addresses are also available. For each interrupt, vector addresses are there. 45 general purpose input output pins are there. So the GPIO, 45 GPIOs are there. 9 edge and level sensitive external interrupt pins are there. So, okay, there are the 9 edge and level sensitive external interrupt pins are available. 60 megahertz is the maximum CPU clock, okay, which has been generated by the PLL. Okay, so PLL 0 is generating a system clock maximum up to 60 megahertz, and both are on chip programmable PLLs. These are the programmable PLLs. Okay, PLL 0 and PLL 1. In system programming facility is there. On chip bootloader software is there. I have shown in the earlier slide. On the earlier slide, I have shown you the location where the bootloader is available. So it is having a in-system programming, means the whenever the target chip is available in a system itself, at the same time you can do the programming also. Without removing the chip from the system, you can do the programming. There is no any necessity of using the separate programmer for this. Okay. Then the single power supply chip with CPU operating voltage is in between 3 volt to 3.6 volt. So this is very low operating voltage is required. Very low operating voltage is required for the operation purpose. So this is consuming very small amount of a power. So this is also one of the design philosophies while considered. It has been considered while designing the ARM processor. So it's a low power device. It's a low power device, low power high speed device. Okay. So these are the some features of the LPC2148 microcontroller, and this is the controller we are using at the time of lab programming, or the experiments have been carried out on this microcontroller. Okay, so we'll stop here, and the entire ARM architecture introduction has been finished over here. Now our next sessions or the next series of lectures will be based on assembly programming, and next to that the embedded C programming, like this. Okay.